Hi, I'm Susan Shaner, and I'm your guest today of Community Forum, and I have the great pleasure to have with me Donna DiMaio Rooney, who is the author of a children's book, Dani and the Day the Bully Changed Everything. Welcome, Donna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So this is a gorgeous cover of the book. We're going to talk quite a bit about this, but before we get into the actual book, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to actually writing the book.
Okay. Well, I worked 10 years in television for various national shows. Regis and Kathy Lee, started there as an intern and then worked for Robin Leach, Lifestyles, The Rich and Famous, and did segment producing there.
Oh, did you go on tour to all these
I went to
homes?
some places I went to. Also did Runaway with the Rich and Famous, which was the travel show. And yes, I was able to go into some of the homes of some of the rich and famous. Remember Judy Collins in particular, who was just playing the piano. And
Really?
Yes, and some really interesting people that I had met back then. And from there, I moved on to ABC News, worked on a documentary show, Turning Point.
It's so different than Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Very different, very different. And then from there, worked at Good Morning America.
So you had a whole career behind the scenes, not in front of the camera.
Right, behind the scenes, worked with high-profile people, and then went into PR, public relations, which I think is a natural for a lot of people who work in the TV production end. Eventually, somehow, get over to PR.
Really? Why is that?
I think you're working with publicists all the time, and you know the flip side of things. So when I work with clients, I'm usually pitching TV. I know what they're looking for. I know how to pitch it, and that has become my little niche over all these years doing PR.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so, different than being an author.
Very different. I had never intended to be an author, which amazes me that I have a book now.
Yeah.
It really does.
So, how did this happen?
How did it happen? One random day, I was in town, and I had noticed, for some strange reason, different young people, maybe teenagers, I would say. One girl was on a cell phone, and she was sitting on a rock, and she was crying. And I said, I wonder what's going on in her life. I saw a boy that was running around the track at the high school, and he was lagging behind the rest. I wonder what's going on with his life. He looks a little sad. Why is he, he's slower than the other kids. And for some strange reason, noticed different kids that day, and I was concerned.
Just as you were driving around town or walking around town? Or?
Walking around the track and going to the store in various places. And I was thinking, gee, what's going on in their lives? They don't
Day in the life of teenagers.
Right. And later, and I know because when I worked in news, we covered a lot of stories on bullying. And later that night, I put on the news, and yet there's another bullying story. And I started to think about when these teenagers are young, is there a way that they could connect to animals? Because most kids do. And if they could identify if they're shy, maybe with the sheep in my story, or if they're fun-loving, like pigs are naturally fun-loving animals. If they're athletic, maybe they would relate to the stallion who is in my book. And I started to come up with this idea.
So you just decided, okay, why don't I write a book to help kids?
Let me write a book to help kids, to say, you know what, if you're shy, it's okay. And if you have a disability, it's okay. It's not that doesn't represent who you are. And I had this idea. I did a lot of research. I went to different seminars. I read a lot, looked at different studies, and I wanted to have a book that would be interesting not only just for kids, but for parents who hopefully are reading the book with the children, and to have different conversations, and to go to the perspective of the bystanders, because the bystanders have the most power. And to get back to your question, I wanted a story that not only would empower bystanders, but also let's get a glimpse into what the victim is feeling like, and what is the bully feeling like, and why is he or she doing that? And created this story. And like I said, I never intended to write one.
Yeah, so you just started writing. So let's talk a little bit about the story. I mean, I read the book. It's cute. How did you self-published? So how did you know what grade level you were writing for? Because I think I said, oh, there's some big words in here. Like,
right.
Yeah. How did you know what?
Well, there's all different ways you can
Yeah.
with words and vocabulary what children need. But I also read too that kids need to be challenged.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to write just for third graders or fourth graders. I wanted to have a wider range. So this book is really intended for about 7-year-old to about 12.
Okay. I know you tested it with your son's class, right?
I tested it with his class, and I went in with this manuscript in an orange binder, and I was invited to come in and read the first chapter. And his teacher said, I'll read it over the next couple of days or weeks. And I got these wonderful letters.
So they were just given the first chapter? Did they want more?
I read the first chapter,
Yeah.
and the teacher read the rest of the book.
Okay.
There are 10 chapters in all.
Okay, yeah.
When he was done, I got these great letters. These letters that were, wow, I really learned something. Letters that kids, even parents, were saying, my son never talks about books. And he came home and talked to me about your story.
Why do you think that is?
I think because they really connected with the animals. And empathy is very hard to teach.
Yeah.
And for some reason, some of these kids were really connecting. They really others felt empowered.
Yeah. So Dani's a girl, Dani.
Little tomboy.
Yeah, little tomboy. So do you want to tell just a little bit about the story and kind of how it plays out? Yeah.
Sure, in a nutshell, Dani is a fun-loving, happy-go-lucky girl. Lives on a farm. Her farm animals are her best friends. Everything's kind of great in her life.
Looks really, peaceful.
Peaceful.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to the characters in the story. And she loves them all. And some of them and she loves them for both their weaknesses and strengths. And we all have that, right? Where everyone's human.
Yeah.
She goes to school the next.
Well, these guys aren't human, but.
Well, they're not human, right? But I try to make them human-like.
Okay, so.
Right. She goes to school the next day, witnesses a bullying on the playground of a popular athletic boy.
Yeah.
Says nothing. Goes home distraught. And it plays over and over in her mind. Why didn't I not say anything? Why didn't anybody say anything? Why didn't someone go to the teacher?
Yeah.
Why did we allow this?
Yeah. Which happens a lot.
It happens all the time.
In subtle and very overt ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Happens with adults. We're seeing some of that play out in the political arena. It definitely happens.
Right. It does happen.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And she falls asleep and has a dream. And in the dream, her beloved animals become lifelike and with human characteristics and qualities. And they have a similar situation. They come up with a solution. I won't give it away. And it's a surprise ending. And it's a book that an educator told me that maybe the solution in the book actually can be implemented into schools.
Yeah. Don't want to give it away at all. But what I liked, what plays out with the animals is really demonstrating and role modeling for children how to approach conversations and ways in which they can resolve things, as well as how to, in a more healthy way, express your feelings and what's really going on with you, and getting underneath why would that happen? Why would anybody behave the way they would? Why would the bully bully? Why would the bystanders stay standing?
Right, and they're fearful, and it's true. Bystanders, I think in general kids are good, and kids want to help, and they want to do the right thing, and of course there's some kids that are not doing that, and we see horrible things in the news, things that, oh my goodness, how could this happen to a child who's in the hospital now on life support of bullying?
I saw what you put. It's horrific.
And
horrific. That boy.
And sadly this is happening.
So there was a autistic boy that was set on fire.
That was in the news.
It's horrific.
Just recently in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And I think 9 and 10-year-old boys.
I mean, it's like 9 and 10-year-old. Why would they? How could they even think like that, let alone do it?
I know. And
it's a
it's
disturbed
hard.
world we live in
Yeah,
sometimes.
it's heartbreaking. And what I'm curious to know is what's going on in their lives? Why are they doing that?
Exactly.
You know, there's all different. You know, people have their own different theories about it. You know, is it too many video games? Is there violence? Are they are they blurring reality with what they're watching on a video game? But really, bystanders are fearful because they don't want to be the next victim. They don't want to be the next victim.
Well, you know what's interesting? So at my church, in our religious education program, we had a program called Being an Upstander. And what the children did is they interviewed adults in the community on a time when they were an upstander and what they did, how they did it. And it was very interesting. And then they showed all these interviews to our whole congregation. And these were the kids creating the whole show and interviewing all the adults. It was really very interesting.
Sure. Sure. And kids need role models, and they need to be informed and empowered. They need to have that knowledge of, if they do see something, what to do.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So you said you did a lot of research that went into the book. So what was some of the research that went into it?
In particular, I remember going to one seminar, and it was a man talking about his child's life, his child committed suicide because his child was bullied. And it started at a young age. And I remember sitting there for those 2 hours. I don't even think I moved a muscle. I was just
riveted,
like
devastated.
Yeah, because I wanted to put myself into perspective of what is the victim feeling, and what is the bully feeling, and what are the bystanders feeling, you know. And the truth of the matter is, sadly, it could happen to anybody. You know, no one's immune to bullying. It doesn't, you know.
And you know, the interesting thing about your book, as you said, instead of playing out a scenario with kids, having the animals in some way maybe more relatable, less threatening for children to put themselves in the shoes of these different characters.
Absolutely. I mean, there's one character that has a disability. And we learn early on that the other animals on the farm, after a while, they don't even see that disability because they see the heart of the animal. And they see the qualities and the wisdom and kindness that this one particular animal has. And I think that kids are more empathetic toward animals. I mean, you know, they're just naturally, they relate. Maybe it's non-threatening, and maybe they could understand. They could, you know, if you have a dog or a puppy or a cat or even a bunny. And that's what I wanted the kids to really understand about empathy, and that's really hard to teach. That's really hard to teach.
No, it is. And so interesting. So you said that your son's class read the manuscript. Did they give you any feedback? Did you change anything as a result of?
No.
No?
They loved it. They loved it. They wanted to know, when's the second story coming out. One little girl, because I would go to the school and I would also participate in a reading program that was nothing to do with my book, but I would read to the kids. And I would run into kids all the time in the hall, and Mrs. Rooney, what if it comes into a movie, can I play Dani? And I said, my goodness, let's get the book out first. You know, of course, I would love it to be a movie. And these kids were really excited about it. And I realized, and I said to them, and I wrote them a letter, I wrote the class a letter, and I said, listen, when this book comes out, and I wanted it to come out before my son is 20, you know, let me better self-publish it myself. When this book does come out, I will track you all down. I don't know when this will be, and I will make sure you get a copy of the book. And that's what I did. So I tracked down I tracked down all 20 kids in the class. Of course, I knew my son.
So this was like a year or two later?
About a year later.
Okay.
I tracked them all down, and I decided that the book is done. I want them to see it. They're going to get a copy. I wrote each book out to each child. I wrapped each one up in wrapping paper.
Oh, that's so sweet.
I decided to have a kickoff party because they felt part of it.
They were part of it.
They were part of it.
And then they probably feel like, wow, I know this author. And probably helped them also being motivated to read.
Well, it's so funny because, I'm motivated to read, but also to write. And then, I'd be like in the lunchroom having, lunch with my son, and there'd be a little kid next to me, and he'd say, Mrs. Rooney, I'm writing a book myself. And I said, oh, that's great. I said,
adorable.
It's a different story, right? But
is so
kids,
cute.
no, the teacher told me that I inspired some of them to actually start writing. Those who didn't want to write. those
That's
who didn't
great.
want to come up with
That's
creative
wonderful.
ideas. And it was encouraging to me. One in particular boy who kind of said a few things to my son when my son was in kindergarten. He said to me, "Wow, I really love this story."
Did he bully your son?
I don't want to say bully.
Yeah.
I said a couple of things that were not nice, not
Okay.
kind. And I think that's also another thing that parents have to be careful of is
Labeling.
to labeling
Yeah.
bullies. Because, reality is if a kid is in the hallway and your child comes home and says, "Oh, so-and-so, grabbed my arm." Well,
Yeah.
did he really grab your arm or was there more to it?
Yeah.
And I think
right.
parents need to
Not jump on it.
Right, parents need to find out what happened. And in some cases, after it was investigated, the so-and-so, he just was trying to hug
Yeah.
so-and-so because they don't have any friends and they're going about it the wrong way.
Yeah. So this boy, he had a insight, or what happened with him?
He had an insight. He was very taken with the book and talked to me a lot about it when I would
fantastic.
run into him in the hall, and that made me feel really good because I thought, you know what, and I started to see a little change in him.
Uh-huh.
And if we can get to the kids young,
Yeah.
and all kids want love and acceptance.
Yeah.
Right. All adults want that too.
Yeah.
But those who are doing the bullying at a young age, if we can get them to feel loved and accepted and show kindness, maybe their behavior will change, and
Yeah.
we won't have a lot of this bullying in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
And for me, this was encouraging.
So, so you've got the book published. Mm-hmm. I think it came out in June, right? Or
Yes, end of
a
June.
few months ago.
Right.
So what are you doing with the book? What are you finding as it's getting out there?
Well, it's interesting doing my own PR.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say,
You're a PR person.
Yeah, and I like I like working for myself because I can always find myself. I don't have to, track down a client and say, "Can you do this interview? Can you do, what's your schedule like?" I can answer
Right.
for myself.
Yeah.
Can always, and so that's been kind of fun. At first, I thought it was going to be a little strange, because I am very
Promoting yourself.
I'm really a private person. I mean, I didn't even get on Facebook until recently just because of the book.
Yeah.
And so I do like my privacy, and I'm not one to, promote other people, yes. But for myself, I thought, how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
But actually, it's been fun, and I'm able to do it because I believe in the message.
Yeah.
And I want to help the children.
And this is the climate for it. I mean, now all the talk, it's out in the open now around bullying and things that we can all, as a community, collectively do to minimize it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and to bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
And I think everyone has a role. Whether you have children or not. I mean, you're an aunt, you're an uncle, you're a grandparent. You know the kid down the street. I mean, we all play a role.
Yeah.
And need to be good role models.
So I know you've been out on some, I don't know if they were exactly book tours, but you did some traveling to promote the book.
Right, I did my little mini book tour,
Yeah.
as I called it.
Yeah.
And doing the PR and marketing has been interesting, and I think people have been very, very welcoming to me. I went down to Chincoteague, Virginia, and that's where I kicked it off, basically because my cousin...
Why there?
Why there? My cousin owns a wonderful art gallery called
neat.
The Flying Fish with really unique gifts. And she's an artist, and she said, I'll do a book signing. I said, great, Margie. And then I said, I need to get some promotion for this. And the Delmarva paper, which goes to 3 states, Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia.
You got a cute little bookmarker
Thank
here.
you. Put the story on the cover.
Right? Yeah, it's so cute. Oh, you know what? And you've got a testimonial on here. So say something about Jennifer Lawrence's mother.
Well,
How'd that happen?
Well, I did a lot of research in publishing the book.
Yeah.
I knew I needed a great cover. And I consulted my son for the cover of the book, actually. I knew I needed great illustrations, and there's 10 illustrations. I knew I needed 2 good endorsements. And luckily, I was able to get Jennifer Lawrence, actress Jennifer Lawrence's mom, Karen Lawrence, to agree to read my manuscript.
And how did you even think of her or know of her and approach her?
I did not know her. I did a lot of research, and I found that a number of celebrities who had been bullied and one of them was Jennifer Lawrence. And here she was, Hunger Games. And
Yeah, well, now she's into Hunger Games.
all these famous movies, right, and these
yeah.
series, and she is a role model for a lot of kids. And she was bullied as a kid. And I wanted...
So how did you approach her mother to get her to read? How did you get her to read the book? How did you find out how to contact her?
Well, doing all the producing over the years, you become a little investigator. You're,
Right.
My dad was a detective, so I feel like it's in me. I have little,
Right.
detective skills, but was able to track her down, and I do this, and was able to. I wrote her a letter, an honest letter.
And she said, "I'm happy to."
Well, she said, "I'll read your manuscript." And then I said, "Whew, okay." And then she came back, "I love the story. Will you write a quote?" "I'd be happy to write a quote." And she said to me, "Donna," she said, "I get tons of requests. I mean, you can't imagine how many requests I get. And if I choose to accept something, I'll give it to page 11. But I knew from your acknowledgement page, I was going to get right to the end."
Oh.
Yeah.
Did she say why?
And she was taken back by the sincerity, of even the acknowledgement page.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
And so I'm going to actually meet her in a couple of weeks.
So, what advice would you give, moms or teachers who are dealing with bully or bystanders that are not being upstanders?
Right. Well, first I say open communication.
Yeah.
Communication is key for parents and kids. Kids have to feel comfortable. We're all guilty of this. Everyone's on their cell phone. And we're talking to people while we're texting, and especially kids. Kids see that. Kids pick up on that. And give your undivided attention to kids. It's not going to hurt you to put the cell phone away and really listen. And kids have so much to say.
Yeah.
When I go to the schools, and even when I do these little book clubs, they want to talk about their day, and they're almost starving for an adult to listen.
Yeah.
And I'd say listen to your kids, and really have an open dialogue. But also for teachers to do the same. But a lot of times when kids are bullied, teachers are really unaware of it because it happens in the hallway, it happens on the playground.
Yeah.
And so if you feel that your child is being bullied, talk to your child and try to come up with a solution together. Don't fight your kids' battles all the time. And a lot of kids don't want that. They're afraid to tell the parent because they don't want mom or dad to be run into the school and So talk about it and find out, first of all, is it really a bullying situation? And what's happening?
Yeah.
Listen to your child, see what solution you can come up with. And see if they can handle it. And then, of course, intervene if there's violence. I mean, by all means, definitely step in.
So do you think you're going to write a second book?
I would like to. I would like to.
There might be a little sequel here.
It could be. I'm listening to kids also what they're asking me to write another book. They're asking me to maybe add another character, another animal into it.
So things are percolating.
Things are percolating.
So what advice would you give somebody who wanted to write a book and didn't know where to begin or wanted to self-publish or... Yeah, what lessons learned do you have there?
Be prepared to do a lot of research.
Yeah.
A lot of research. I mean, I'd say to definitely go ahead
what's a lot of research? Like, what did you do?
Well, first of all, researching the book. Researching, like you'd asked me earlier, like the language and the vocabulary. That all has to be researched.
Yeah.
Researching, if you are going to self-publish, there are so many self-publishing companies. There's all pros and cons. But really research it, and I felt like I went with one that I felt very comfortable and was satisfied at the end. But you know what? I had to be there every step of the way. No one was spoon-feeding me.
Yeah.
I had to say, wait, what about this? What about that? I need to, I want Library of Congress. I want to be copyrighted. I want,
Right.
So you really need to be your own advocate.
And how did you find the illustrator?
There was a number of illustrators I looked at, and I felt that Sally Taylor, her style, I liked, and I felt it was warm, and we worked together, and she was, after many revisions, was really able to get my vision and make my characters come to life.
Wow, okay. So what did you love about this process?
I loved, and I've done, like you asked me, my career earlier, and I've met amazing people, I've been to amazing places. Writing the book was by far the most enjoyable thing I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
What about it?
The creative process.
Yeah.
You know, the publishing was different. That was a lot of research. That was a lot of figuring it out, navigating a world I had not been familiar with.
Yeah.
But the writing process, to go into my mind and create characters and craft every sentence.
So you loved the process of writing.
I loved it.
Some people it's arduous, but for you,
It was,
it's fantastic.
I had to carve out time to make sure that I had, to put time aside. But going in this world of make-believe, and I think part of it is because, I do have a young child,
Yeah.
and I do like to play and to have fun, and I never wanted to lose that creativity. I mean, I've written music. If someone said to me, you're going to write a book, I would kind of laugh if it was years ago, and I'd say, no, I'm more of a composer. I write music. I write the music and the lyrics together, compose songs. But to write a book,
so interesting. I guess you never know.
you never know.
You never know like what's going to unfold. I mean, it almost sounds like this sort of just came to you and you were inspired and you wrote it, but you said you didn't plan it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It really did. It
Sort
really
of evolved.
Did. It really did.
So if someone had questions about anything we talked about, what you know about bullying, all your research there, or the process of writing or self-publishing, how might they get in contact with you?
Sure. They can certainly email me. I do have a company email, which is Sheepy Press, SHEEPY Press, PRESS.
All one word?
All one word.
Okay.
And that's my private label, Sheepy Press, at outlook.com.
Okay, great. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay. All right. I'm Susan Shaner with Community Forum. Thank you for joining us. Until next time.